In a small dusty village near the edge of a crowded city, there lived a boy named Arman. He was 16 years old, thin, quiet, and wore the same faded shirt almost every day. His pockets were always empty, but his eyes carried something unusual, dreams bigger than the mountains around him. People in the village laughed at him. Dreams are for rich people, they would say. First earn bread, then think about success. But Arman had a habit that nobody understood. Every night, after finishing work at a roadside tea stall, he would climb onto the roof of his broken house and stare at the city lights far away. One night his mother asked softly, "What do you see there every night?" Arman smiled. "I see my future." His mother looked at him with tired eyes. She loved her son deeply, but life had taught her to expect little. "Future," she whispered. "We can barely survive today." Arman held her hand gently. "One day I'll change everything, Amy. Not just for us, for everyone around us." His mother smiled sadly. She wanted to believe him, but poverty kills hope slowly, day by day. The boy with empty pockets. Every morning Arman woke up before sunrise. He washed cups at the tea stall, cleaned tables, carried heavy milk containers, and served customers all day long. At the end of 12 exhausting hours, the owner handed him a few crumpled notes. That money barely bought food. One afternoon, while serving tea, Arman overheard two businessmen talking. "One idea can change a man's life," one of them said confidently. The other laughed. "Ideas are cheap. Big thinking is rare." Those words hit Arman like lightning. Big thinking is rare. That night he could not sleep. He kept repeating the sentence in his mind. What if poor people stay poor because they only think about surviving? What if the real difference between rich and poor is the size of their thinking? For the first time, Arman realized something powerful. His pockets were empty, but his mind did not have to be. The old man at the bus stop. A few days later, heavy rain flooded the streets. Customers disappeared from the tea stall, and Arman sat quietly outside. Near the bus stop stood an old man wearing simple white clothes, holding a torn umbrella. He looked educated, calm, and strangely peaceful. Arman offered him tea for free. The old man smiled. "Why free?" "Because you look tired." The man accepted the tea and asked, "What do you want from life, boy?" Most people asked Arman what he did. Nobody asked what he wanted. He answered honestly. "I want to become successful. I want to build something big." The old man stared into his eyes carefully. "And how much money do you have?" Arman laughed softly. "Nothing." The old man smiled. "Good." Arman looked confused. "Good? Yes. Empty pockets are not dangerous. Empty minds are." Those words changed Arman forever. Before leaving, the old man pulled a small notebook from his bag and handed it to him. "Write your big ideas here. Big lives begin with big thoughts." "Who are you?" Arman asked. "Just someone who once had empty pockets too." And then he disappeared into the rain. Thinking bigger than fear. From that day onward, Arman carried the notebook everywhere. He began writing ideas constantly. A small delivery business. A mobile repair shop, online learning for poor children. A cheap food service for workers. His friends mocked him. "You think too much. You're poor. Accept reality. You were born small. Stay small." But Arman noticed something important. The people who mocked him had already accepted defeat. They feared dreaming because dreaming creates responsibility. Every night he studied using free videos at a local internet cafe. He learned about business, communication, marketing, and successful people around the world. Sometimes he slept only 3 hours. Sometimes hunger made his stomach ache while studying. Still, he continued. Because once a person starts thinking big, ordinary life becomes impossible. The biggest rejection. Months later, Arman gathered courage and presented one of his ideas to a local shop owner. He wanted to create a small home delivery system using bicycles. The owner laughed loudly. "You? Business?" The workers around him laughed too. Arman felt humiliation burn inside his chest. "You can't even buy proper shoes," the owner continued. "How will you build a company?" For a moment Arman almost gave up. That night he sat alone on the rooftop again. The city lights looked farther than ever. "What if they're right?" he whispered. Tears rolled down his face silently. Maybe dreams were only for lucky people. Maybe poor boys were supposed to stay poor forever. As he sat there broken, he remembered the old man's words. Empty pockets are not dangerous. Empty minds are. Slowly, Arman stood up. He realized something powerful. Rich people are not born different. They simply refuse to let rejection decide their future. That night he made a promise to himself. "I may fail many times, but I will never think small again." The first opportunity. One day the tea stall owner became sick and could not manage deliveries. Arman offered to organize them. Using only a notebook and borrowed bicycle, he created routes, managed timings, and increased deliveries within a week. Customers were impressed. For the first time, the owner looked at Arman differently. "You have a sharp mind," he admitted. Soon nearby shops started asking for help too. Arman worked day and night building a small delivery network using village boys who desperately needed work. At first they earned very little, but Arman treated them with respect. "Never think of yourself as small," he told them. "We are building something important." Slowly the business grew. The power of vision. Years passed. The small delivery network became a citywide service company. Arman rented a tiny office. Then a bigger one. Then another. People who once laughed at him now asked for jobs. But success never changed his habits. Every night he still looked at the city lights. The difference was this. He no longer looked at them as dreams. He looked at them as proof. Proof that big thinking changes destiny. One evening a young worker asked him, "Sir, how did you become successful when you started with nothing?" Arman smiled. "I did not start with nothing." The worker looked confused. "But you were poor." "Yes," Arman replied. "My pockets were empty. But my mind was full." The return of the old man. One winter afternoon, years later, Arman saw a familiar figure near the same old bus stop. The old man. Older now. Slower. But still peaceful. Arman rushed toward him. "You remember me?" The old man smiled warmly. "The boy with big dreams." Arman's eyes filled with emotion. "You changed my life." "No," the old man replied gently. "I only reminded you of your power." Arman invited him into his large office building. The old man looked around proudly. "You built all this?" Arman nodded. "But it started with a notebook." The old man laughed softly. "Everything big begins small." Before leaving, the old man said one final thing. "Never stop thinking beyond your current situation." Most people become prisoners of what they see around them. The moment a person thinks bigger than fear, bigger than poverty, and bigger than rejection, life changes. The lesson that changed hundreds of lives. As Arman became successful, he started free learning centers for poor children. Whenever he spoke to them, he repeated the same message. Your current condition is not your final identity. You are not limited by your empty pocket. You are limited only by the size of your thinking. Many children cried hearing those words because they had spent their entire lives believing poverty was permanent. Arman understood their pain. He had lived it. But he also knew something the world often forgets. Greatness is born twice. First in the mind. Then in reality. Final message. The world will often judge you by your current situation. People will measure your clothes, your money, your background, and your failures. But none of those things define your future. A poor person with a powerful mindset can rise higher than a rich person with small thinking. Empty pockets can be filled. Broken situations can change. Failures can become lessons. But a small mindset keeps people trapped forever. So never be afraid to dream bigger than your reality. Because sometimes the only thing standing between an ordinary life and an extraordinary one is the courage to think big.
Your support gives us strength to create more stories. Please like and subscribe.